Hey Morgan. So we've had some questions about like why should people strength train if they want to run?
Well, let's take it to the bikes and talk about it. So typically we recommend that runners strength train because the running uses obviously your hip and knee joints, and those are two joints that are really vulnerable to injury, especially if you don't have the muscle mass to support those joints.
Hmm.
So the hip is a ball and socket joint, and then your knee kind of is a rotational joint. But both of those, when you're doing an activity like running where there's a lot of repetitive stress, those are also two really heavy weight bearing joints. And so we want to make sure that you also have some muscle mass. So when you're doing those repetitive movements, that you're absorbing, I almost said repetitive injuries. I hope our runners aren't getting
Yeah.
repetitive injuries. That's why you should strength train,
Yeah.
is that repetitive movement should not put stress on the joints. It should go to the muscles. So we want to be really focused on building up the muscle to support the joint, therefore protecting those runners.
Yeah. Speaking about building up the muscle,
Yeah.
so what we can do is strength train those areas. So like the hips, knees, ankles, getting everything. So when you are running, you aren't feeling any of that on the pounding each time that you're stepping. And so how we can do that is getting you through a couple of days a week, full body strength training. And that full body strength training routine will involve bending at the hips, pushing out, which we don't do a lot when you run forward and backward, but that side to side movement will actually help when you are getting pushed around, maybe on a bumpy trail or something like that. And then bending at the knee and moving at the ankles. So runner specific exercises, doing a lot of hip flexion because our hip flexors are actually bringing up our knees as we're running.
Yeah.
And so doing that 1 to 2 days a week is really going to be great for that, to build up the stability in the hip, knee, and ankle. So we're not feeling those to be super sore afterwards. And then we can go into more of a stretching routine to help with the flexibility in that, so you're not going to get stiff ankles or injuries aren't going to come on as much. So
and become more powerful. Like
exactly.
if you're a runner who does a lot of hill running or trail races, where there's a lot more elevation changes.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
another big benefit of strength training for runners, is you're going to be more powerful if you have more muscle mass.
Yeah, and building that endurance into that muscle itself to actually work in the hard points of either a race or a hard point of your workout. Going for a longer distance, you're not actually getting that ache and pain in those hips, knees, and ankles. Like all of that is going to be better off when you're actually doing a strength training routine 1 to 2 days a week in that low volume, not doing too much, because then you're actually getting more stress onto the joint and the muscle that you're not needed, and you're able to focus on your running a lot more.
Right. We want to go into strength training with a strategy so that you're balancing out those muscle groups, and like Matt said, really making sure that we're hitting each muscle group strategically 1 or 2 times and giving it the stimulus it needs to get and grow stronger, but also not overworking it, and also creating some variety in your training routine. By strength training regularly, you're still pushing your body, but in a different way, so that you're not having that repetitive impact on your hips and knees. You can actually give your body a little bit more rest, which will then result in better runs when you do go out and hit the road or the trails.
Yeah, like cross training.
Yeah,
so it's like biking.
Yeah, just like biking. And if you strength train in the way that we do, which is training to momentary muscular failure, you're also going to feel it. It's going to be like doing an interval workout for about 30 minutes.
Or hills.
Yeah, so we have, we've trained clients where they'll do a high intensity, strength training workout, and that does count as like an interval workout, and they might do, a lighter aerobic exercise on that same day if they're really doing high volume training. But you don't need to go as long because you've already gotten the strength and the aerobic training in during the strength training. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. So
don't forget, we're going to do some myths. But
oh, that's right, we're busting some myths.
Yeah, we got some myths to bust.
I love this section.
because historically, runners were always told, or endurance athletes in general, they actually shied away from strength training and were told not to do it because if they, it's kind of like protein. Everyone needs it, right?
Everybody should be running.
Yeah. If you are running or doing any endurance sport, you were historically told not to strength train because you would bulk up and then it would weigh you down and you would become slower. And although I would never say that a bodybuilder is the best marathon runner, there is a difference in kind of training style and your nutrition. So you can add some muscle mass without putting on so much mass that it's weighing you down. And that's what working with a trainer can really do, or just paying attention to your body, kind of that calories in versus calories out while strength training and running, because the benefits of strength training really do outweigh the risks. You don't want to not be strength training and wear your muscles down so thin, or even in the case of, ultra runners. I've read, if you've ever read of like an ultra runner or even a marathon runner who it's like they ran all the time and then at the end of this race they had a heart attack and they're like, how did that happen? It's because they burned their heart muscle tissue so thin because they weren't fueling properly and they didn't strength train to negate that muscle and organ tissue burning during their endurance training. Your heart actually can become really weak and it becomes really dangerous. So I really wanted to bust that myth because although, like I said, no bodybuilders are going to be running a marathon, but you should put on a little bit of mass so that you can run for the long haul.
For sure. So in summary, the first off, we're going to be building up those joints to create more stability. So when you're running, you're not having those aches and pains. In the way that we're going to be strength training that 1 to 2 days per week to have that low volume but very high intensity, so you can actually focus more on the running portion, which you want to do. And then to bust some myths there is like, you're going to train, you're going to perform how you train. So the same thing, you're going to, if you eat how you want to like basically be when you're running, like you're going to run better, you're going to be nutrition, but you're not going to get super bulky when you're training for strength training. So that is a little bit of that myth that we're totally false.
So if you have more questions, if you're a runner and have more questions about how to strength train or the benefits, we'd love to answer your questions either at your next training session or during a discovery session. See you next time.